The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by the UMass 5 College Credit Union, dedicated to creating access to financial well-being for local people, businesses, and communities. Insured by NCUA, umass5.coop. The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by Northeast Solar in Hatfield, dedicated to custom solar installations, electric vehicle charging solutions, and reliable long-term system support. northeast-solar.com.
Welcome to the Fabulous 413. I'm Khalees Smith.
And I'm Monty Belmonte. Later in the show, an Iraqi-Israeli street food that'll accompany West African dance music at the Iron Horse this weekend. We'll talk with Ito Moore and learn how to properly pronounce both these things. Sabich and Dogo de Togo.
Dogo de Togo is pretty easy.
Okay.
Plus, Hard Knocks writ large on screen as we talk with Ben Elliott and Matthew Penn of the Triplex Cinema in Great Barrington about their hard-boiled series highlighting noir films of the 70s.
But first, welcome to the middle of week 3 of the government shutdown.
Which the congressman for the 2nd District definitely has some feelings about.
Well, hello there.
Hey, how are you?
Good, and you?
Good. Hey, Joe Kennedy called. He's going to come for a couple of hours on the Monday.
Oh, wow. That's
yeah,
great.
Because he can't do Tuesday, so he's going to be here Monday.
That guy.
I know. I mean, he called himself.
I think he owes you a blood debt of some sort, because that guy will be doing all his ambassadorial stuff, or when he was in Congress, and then he'll just show up from a flight from the West Coast to walk with us for 2 miles or something like that.
Yeah. So anyway, he said, "You still doing the walk?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Okay. I don't think I could do Tuesday, but what about Monday?" I said, "Perfect."
Yeah, that's great. Time for our weekly check-in with U.S. Congressman from the 2nd Congressional District of Massachusetts, Worcester's own Congressman Jim McGovern, and I was visiting my freshman in college in Worcester for Parents' Weekend at Clark on Saturday, and then, at the suggestion of the McGovern family, checking out one of the Worcester restaurants, the Boynton, and lo and behold, down the street, I could hear a rally and clapping and horns. And there was U.S. Congressman Jim McGovern speaking at a No Kings rally. Not the only No Kings rally that you attended over the weekend, I believe, Congressman. Tell us your impressions and which No Kings rallies you attended and spoke at this past weekend.
I was in Haydenville. I was in Northampton. I was in Worcester. I was in Hopkinton. And it was really inspirational. Look, it gave me a lot of hope. I mean, the people that showed up at all these events that I attended, it was phenomenal. It's not the usual suspects. It's not the people you always see at every rally. People of all ages. I saw little kids, and I saw a woman who was 96 telling me that she felt she had to be there, not just for herself, but for her kids, grandkids, and great-grandkids. I think that the resistance is growing. And we got to keep the momentum going, because this guy in the White House, I think, is set on trying to accumulate as much power for himself as possible. And who knows what that means for our midterm elections, never mind the next presidential election.
It was an interesting social media response by the president after those rallies of him crowning himself in an AI video or dropping feces from a plane on all the protesters. It's still up for debate, I guess, about how effective these protests have been. This is technically the second No Kings rally. There was one back in the summer. And Franklin County journalist and activist Carl Meyer asks you, "Dear Congressman, in 1776, when the King's attack came out of Boston, the people ran to where the battle was. They all put skin in the game. To date, Cory Booker is the sole person who's wrestled the tyrant bullhorn from the mouth of the president in a one-day filibuster a half year back. No Kings rallies every 4 months quickly become old news 2 days later, while democracy grows thinner. Trump goes back to his daily scattershot war on constitutional democracy from the White House via bully edicts and tweets that send whole cities into panic. Isn't it time for real action? As a free people wishing to pass democracy onto our children, isn't now the time to demand back our Constitution, the courts, and the rule of law by the people heading to where the battle is and flooding the Capitol to retake the stolen bullhorn of democracy using our sacred constitutional right to peaceably assemble? Thank you," adds Carl Meyer from Greenfield. What's your take on the efficacy of these protests?
I think we should be doing more, and I wouldn't sell these protests short. Let me tell you, I mean, Congress right now is totally subservient to Donald Trump, because Republicans are more afraid of him than they are of the people of this country. I think the fact that millions of people showed up, is giving them pause. They're now realizing that their people, not just their constituents, but people all over the country, understand what's going on. They're alarmed by what's happening. And as I said when I spoke at Northampton, the citizens really are the last check. I mean, Congress, again, under lazy Mike Johnson and under John Thune, the Republicans, it just cave to him all the time. I mean, we're not even standing up for our constitutional prerogatives. I mean, we're just giving in. And the courts, well, they're a mixed bag. And we're winning a lot of court cases, but people worry about what happens when things get to the Supreme Court. So protest is essential right now. It's required. And this country was born in revolution and nurtured through protest and strengthened by dissent. And, we all have a role to play. And showing up is important. Yeah, can we be more creative? Certainly. But I don't think our democracy is going to be saved by filibusters. I think our democracy is going to be saved by people not taking anymore and actually going to the ballot box and changing the realities in this country. There's no quick fix here. And quite frankly, we all should have seen this coming. Too many of us did not. And here we are. As we speak, he's literally wrecking our democracy, as symbolized by the wrecking ball at the White House, basically demolishing this historical building that really is not his house, but it's our house.
Yes, for those who haven't been following that, the east wing of the White House is now pretty much completely demolished and will soon be a ballroom that the president is very, very proud of.
But look, if people have concrete suggestions, good ideas, I'm open to it. I'm trying to do everything I can to try to raise awareness on what's happening and to try to fight back. But if there are better things that we could be doing, not just members of Congress, but leaders of various organizations that are helping to organize resistance, please let us know the specifics about what people would want to see happen.
Speaking with U.S. Congressman Jim McGovern, McGoverning with McGovern, we're a couple weeks into the most recent government shutdown, and it looks like it's going to go into next week at least. I know the president is out of town this weekend, and it seems like Mike Johnson won't do anything without his say-so. But according to Politico, Senators Rand Paul and Gary Peters are hosting a bipartisan lunch, and Senators Jeanne Shaheen and Mike Rounds, who are part of an informal group trying to find an off-ramp to the shutdown, said that they were planning to attend. Senator Kevin Cramer told Politico, there is a little bit of a better spirit. Something must be happening. In your opinion, Congressman, is something happening?
Well, first of all, just because the president is in Asia doesn't mean he can't pick up the phone to help resolve this like today. But look, people are talking and people are trying to figure out a way out. But here's my bottom line. Look, I understand. We're not in control of anything. We're not in control of the White House. We're not in control of the House or the Senate. They are. They want our votes. Well, you know what? I want something in return. I want to make sure that tens of millions of people don't see their health care premiums double or triple. I want to make sure that millions of people don't have bills that are so expensive that they're forced to drop their health insurance. Health insurance is a big deal to me. And so what we're saying is we don't want to promise that there'll be a debate on some of this stuff, weeks later. We want to guarantee that this is going to be fixed. I'm getting, calls and emails from my constituents panicked about the bills that they're getting and wondering whether or not they can afford their insurance. Health insurance ought to be a right in this country and not a privilege. And I just don't understand why we can't just agree to extend these tax credits and then agree to a strategy to address the other shortcomings of our healthcare system and then move on. But these guys would rather send $40 billion to Argentina, to some cuckoo clock right-wing dictator in Argentina, than actually invest in making sure people can afford their health care. Their priorities are all screwed up. They don't share my values. I don't think they share the values of most of the people that I represent. But this is fixable. And my hope is that we could do this sooner rather than later.
We've seen some bipartisan crossovers from Marjorie Taylor Greene, most famously. Are you hearing from anyone else on the Republican side, either in the House or the Senate, who are finally having enough and saying that healthcare is important enough to at least give the Democrats this one little thing that they want to get the government going again?
I think there are two reasons why Mike Johnson hasn't called the House back into session. We haven't been in session in the House for a month. And the two reasons are, one, is he knows that if there is a vote on healthcare, he will lose. That a number of his Republican members will vote with us because they're hearing it from their constituents. And you mentioned Marjorie Taylor Greene. The second reason why we're not being called back is because then he would have no excuse not to swear in Adelita Grijalva, the Congresswoman-elect from Arizona, and she will be the 218th signatory to the discharge petition, which would force a vote on the Epstein files. And for whatever reason, he is terrified about that prospect. I don't know what the hell's in these files, but Donald Trump doesn't want them to be released and doesn't want to vote on this stuff. But that's the other reason. So those are the two reasons why the House of Representatives has not been in session for a month. Democrats are showing up. We did a hearing yesterday on the impact of the shutdown on federal workers. We've done a hearing last week on the impact of the cuts to health care. We're going to continue to show up and we're going to continue to do our job. But as I said last week, Republicans are always demanding new work requirements on programs that help poor people, whether it's SNAP or Medicaid. Well, I want to introduce legislation that imposes a work requirement on members of Congress. You got to show up to do your job, and if you don't, you shouldn't get paid.
Speaking with U.S. Congressman Jim McGovern, got a question from J.J. White. It's slightly verbose, but I think it's an interesting take.
Okay.
Dear Monty and Congressman McGovern, the federal government is closed. Republicans and Democrats are in an impasse that sees no end in sight. Blue states have formed their own healthcare initiatives to offer citizens vaccination, childhood immunization, and science-based policies. Red states have outlawed abortion and are pursuing doctors in blue states who are providing healthcare to women in red states. Meanwhile, tax dollars in wealthy blue states support health and education programs in poor red states. Blue states continue to promote alternative energy solutions and incentives to address the climate crisis. Conservatives are ending these policies and canceling support. He goes on with a bunch of different issues, including LGBT issues and some having to do with people of color. He concludes by saying, do citizens in red states want to live where trans people have to be respected, where women have choices about their health care, where government laws limit their access to assault weapons, or where public education is supported by higher taxes? If you believe that these are intractable problems, will the esteemed congressman lead an effort to start a dialogue with conservatives to forge either a new union or a separate but equal divorce, says J.J. White.
Well, first of all, I think we should be striving for the goals of the Constitution, which is that all are created equal in this country. And when the Constitution was written, all men are created equal. I mean, they were only thinking of white men at the time, but the all in that phrase, I think, applies to everybody all over the country. You should be able to live wherever you want to live in this country, and you should have your rights respected. That's my belief. One of the things, though, that I do think we should be talking about is the fact that Massachusetts is a donor state. We pay more in federal taxes than we get in return. And I get it. I mean, we help provide food for poor people in Mississippi, and we help provide health care for poor people in, Georgia. I mean, I go right down the list. But the bottom line is, as we're speaking right now, Donald Trump is not only basically freezing federal funding coming into Massachusetts, he's taking money away. So I'm going to float to the governor this idea of saying, well, maybe we should just put all of our federal tax dollars that we pay in escrow, and we take care of ourselves if that's what it is. If the federal government's not going to do its job under this president, I don't want us paying more money and getting less. I mean,
are there legal ramifications of
that?
Is that something that can legally be
I
done?
don't even know.
Many people have floated this idea already.
I'm sure there are legal ramifications, but it's something we ought to be talking about more loudly, because the fact of the matter is, I don't think most people outside of Massachusetts know that we are a donor state. And some of the people who have the most closed-minded policies and who are genuflecting in front of this president, on a constant basis are the states that benefit from the fact that we provide more than we take back. And this is not what we want for the future. But with this president who is not playing by the rules, I mean, I saw our senators were doing a press conference at the Cape Cod bridges because that funding has been frozen. We need to repair those Cape Cod bridges. It's a safety issue. People could die if it collapses. So it's necessary. And he's being vindictive and withholding that money. Well, maybe we ought to have a conversation out loud. Again, I'm sure there are legal ramifications. I don't know how you could do it, but to at least float the idea that we're getting sick and tired of this. And I think other states that are in our position should do the same thing. The way this government is supposed to work is not that if you against me, then I punish the people you represent. So that's what happens again, when there's a king or an authoritarian in power. It's not supposed to happen in a republic and a democracy like the one we have right now. And so I think we have to have some out-of-the-box conversations, whether or not we can act on them or not. We'll have to see. But I think people need to be reminded that we are a generous state, we are generous people, and we're sick and tired of being mistreated the way this president is mistreating the Commonwealth.
Another listener question from Josh Jacobson from Agawam. A bit of a quirky question, and I'm a quirky person, so I loved it. Josh says, I was
I
wondering
could agree with that. Yeah.
I was wondering if, like his congressional colleague, Chris Murphy, if Representative McGovern would be willing to reach out to the Adam Friedland Show for an interview. Adam Friedland is a stand-up comedian, hosts a talk show, and is a podcaster based in New York City. He's been described as millennial Jon Stewart. Josh says, similar interviews have not gone well for some establishment Democrats and regime-affiliated Republicans, for that matter, but he thinks that Adam Friedland is a fair interviewer and would be charitable to McGovern, and similarly to some other resistance-affiliated Democrats. And then Josh says, despite my petty grievances I've made in submission to this program, meaning the Fabulous 413, directed toward the congressman on issues related to Gaza and other issues, I believe that more people need to be aware of Mr. McGovern's work in Congress and in the 2nd District locally, and that this would be a good opportunity to him to put a face out there as someone with both experience and a man with principled approaches to politics. He also says, fair warning, if you're not aware, the show engages in some crass humor. That is both the Adam Friedland Show and the Fabulous 413. What about having a bigger platform for the kind of things you're suggesting, the kind of things that you just suggested on this show about Democratic states, blue states withholding federal tax dollars as maybe a movement towards quote-unquote soft secession or a way to push back against what's going on in Washington, D.C.?
Well, I'm open to it, although I'm not terribly funny, so I'm not sure I could compete in a way that would be interesting. But I'm open to it. I'm willing to try anything. I'm trying to expand my platform. I'm trying to expand my platform on social media. I'm trying to appear on more podcasts. I'm trying to do more because the other side is doing more, quite frankly. And we need to make sure that people understand that there are two sides to these issues. But I think all of us, and I've had this conversation with our Democratic leaders, we need to kind of get out of our comfort zone and start appearing on programs and in forums that, we don't traditionally appear on. Because we might reach a different audience. And if we're trying to build a resistance, it's about addition. It's not about subtraction. We need more people. I mean, one of the things I will say about the No Kings rallies, which was very heartening to me, is when I looked out into the audience, again, it wasn't just the usual activists. It was a very diverse group of people in terms of age, in terms of background, in terms of everything. There were business people there. There were heads of nonprofits. There were moms, dads, grandmoms, grandfathers. But we need to do more. So the answer is yes. I don't know how to do it, but reach out to my office and tell me how to. I guess I could Google it and find out how to get on the show. But I'm open to it.
I loved that he suggested on our show that you should go on another show. That was a particularly quirky part of the question.
Well, but he knows you're quirky, so that's the.
I'm going to accept what you just said about looking out in the audience during the No Kings rallies and seeing people of all ages and backgrounds participating in their democracy in that way as what may be hopeful this week, so that we have time to shamelessly plug that the March for the Food Bank is a month from tomorrow and a month from Saturday, the 24th and 25th of November, Thanksgiving week. I'll say that a good friend of mine yesterday said he was so upset about what he's hearing from Washington, D.C., especially in regards to cuts in SNAP, that he said he's doing the whole 43-mile march.
Wow.
Other people will join us in different fits and starts for a few miles here, a few miles there. But you, Congressman, also go the whole 43 miles from Springfield to Greenfield over the 2 days. What keeps you doing it? And maybe perhaps encourage other people to participate in some small or large ways.
Well, it's the same reason that you just cited for that friend of yours who's going to do the 43 miles. Look, sometimes you need to be engaged in something that actually results in something concrete. We have a lot of battles out here in Washington, and sometimes we pat ourselves on the back because we won the argument, but we may not necessarily have advanced the policy. The wonderful thing about the march is that we're raising funds for people in our community so they have enough to eat. And that's real. That's real. And, the people who rely on the food bank are not just those who don't have jobs or who are struggling looking for housing. They're working people who can't afford the groceries. And if these healthcare bills go up, even more people are going to need to rely on the food bank. And they're cutting SNAP as we speak. So if you want to help people in our community, if you want to help do something real, something meaningful, providing people food for themselves and their families, this is the only game in town. And it's painful in terms physically, but it's for me because I'm getting older. But it's fun, and I learn a lot, and we have a lot of good conversations. So if people want to come along and talk to me and tell me ideas that they have about stuff we should be doing more of, this is an opportunity where you had a captive audience for 43 miles. But I do this because it's real, and I urge everybody, even if you can only do a half a mile or a mile, even if you only can raise $20. I mean, just join us. It's community building. And it's something that gives me great hope.
Did you see my Mr. Rogers video that I made to promote it? Because I'm going to dress up as Mr. Rogers one of the days.
I did not. I did not, but I will not. I will download it today.
I'll forward it to you. Make it easy. And if you're interested in going on the march, participating in the march in any way, or just supporting a team, you can go to marchforthefoodbank.org or go right to the food bank's website, foodbankwma.org. Also, this weekend at State Street Fruit Store in Northampton and Cooper's Corner, you can go in and make a contribution and receive a gift bag. 100% of that contribution will go directly to the Food Bank of Western Mass. So there's any number of ways to get involved. Congressman Jim McGovern will be there both days on the 24th and 25th of November and joins us every Thursday here on the Fabulous 413. If you've got a question for the Congressman, send it our way, thefab413@nepm.org. Thanks so much, Congressman.
All the best. Talk to you soon. Bye.
It's a neighborly day in the 413, a westerly day with the food bank. How would you like to go for a hike?
Tangential to the upcoming March for the Food Bank, this Friday and Saturday, October 24th and 25th at 7:30 p.m., Pothole Pictures launches its fall-winter 9-movie season in the newly renovated Shelburne Falls Theater with a benefit screening of Won't You Be My Neighbor. It's a benefit for NEPM.
Speaking of screenings, up next we head to Great Barrington, where stark realities meet cultural unrest with a touch of desperation in their series of 70s neo-noir films, Hard Boiled.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by Comfort Bagel, scratch-made artisan sourdough bagels, spreads, and sandwiches for breakfast or lunch on Main Street in Westfield and at their new location in Holyoke at 92 Race Street. ComfortBagel.com. The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by the UMass Amherst School of Public Policy, offering in-person and online graduate programs in public policy and data analytics. Admissions now open at umass.edu/SPP.
I was driving into work today, listening to All Things Considered, and then I heard your promo, and you were just like, today we explored the dark side of cinema. And in my mind, I was like, oh, cool. I can't wait to hear what that is. And then you were like, Triplex Cinema. I was like, oh, right, it's me.
Welcome back to the Fabulous 413. When America goes through hard times, it makes the movies to match. As the end of the idealistic 60s came to a close, a new generation of femme fatales and tough-as-nails detectives came to life on the big screen, matching the creeping paranoia, cynicism, and violence of the Nixon era. There is a new film series currently happening at the Triplex in Great Barrington, celebrating some of those movies.
From the second wave of American film noir, all this fall at the Triplex, their series is The New Hard Boiled, the birth of American neo-noir. And we are joined by Ben Elliott, creative director of the Triplex Cinema, who's joined us many times on the show, and by Triplex board member Matthew Penn.
Matthew Penn is an Emmy-nominated director who is best known for his work in television, where he's directed and or produced over 200 hour-long dramas. His work includes iconic shows like Law & Order, The Sopranos, NYPD Blue, Orange is the New Black, Queen of the South, and Damages. He has also directed theater productions for Barrington Stage, Shakespeare & Company, Berkshire Theater Group, and Great Barrington Public Theater. Thank you both for joining us.
Thank you so much for having us.
Hard Boiled. There's a Hong Kong cinema movie called Hard Boiled, starring Chow Yun-fat. This is not one of the movies.
Which I recently got to see for the first time ever, weirdly enough.
Oh, it's so amazing. I love that movie so much. But people may think, Hard Boiled, we're talking about what I had for breakfast this morning. But no. Does anyone want to describe what hard-boiled means in this context? Maybe you, Matthew Penn, as you've done so many hard-boiled dramas on television.
I was going to turn this one over to Ben, but I think of hard-boiled as gritty, tough, unwavering, a kind of direct intervention with reality as it is. No effort to sort of dress it up or cosmeticize it. Ben, what would you say?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a very American genre that kind of came out of detective fiction for the Prohibition era and the Depression. And so a lot of stories of people who basically did not find a place for themselves in the system, did not find themselves being taken care of by the kind of American system of the era. So they kind of made their own way, made their own rules often, and kind of lived in these seedier, harder lives that kind of created so many of the stories that we connect with film noir.
Yeah. What do you think separates noir as a genre, which isn't always mystery, from mystery, which is often associated with?
I think it's that driving desperation. I think it's what gets people into these situations. It's just like, because it's something like Double Indemnity, right? Like, it's not in the series, but like a classic noir. But there isn't really a mystery. You're with these people as they're doing these terrible things the whole time, but it's just people on the edge who are kind of forced to do these things. And often detectives are such a great protagonist because they kind of unravel these stories and kind of get to the true seediness and desperation underneath it. But I love noir because it is so all encompassing for so many just dark things and so much like sadness. But these films in particular, I think, touch on such a specific time in America when there was a real kind of a break in like the social contract of just like this feeling of the systems and the idealism of what the country could do and how it could take care of its people was starting to break. And a lot of these stories really reflect that. There's paranoia, there's this just kind of hustle mentality of a lot of these characters who are just trying to, like, the world has failed them, so they're trying to figure out their way forward.
That is Ben Elliott, the creative director of the Triplex Cinema in Great Barrington. We're talking about the series that's underway right now. The next opportunity will be this Saturday to get in on the new Hard Boiled, the birth of American neo-noir. We're going to talk about some of the films specifically, but Matthew Penn, who is an Emmy-nominated director and a board member at the Triplex, what's your involvement with this Hard Boiled series?
Well, specifically Night Moves, which is a movie that stars Gene Hackman, was directed by my father, Arthur Penn. We were so pleased and proud to find out from Ben that it would be one of the films included in this series. And, noir, as we all know, means night. And of course, it was not only the cinematic approach back in the 30s, 40s, 50s, it was also referring to the sort of darkness of the human soul, as Ben said, as we watched these characters unfold in frequently horrendous actions, murder, adultery, etc. Neo-noir, for me is that new version of it, whether it's Chinatown or Night Moves or, many of the other movies that are in this series that really talk about, in Night Moves, you're really looking at Harry Mosby, who's a man who's sort of lost, but unlike the detectives who exist for the case. In Harry Mosby's case, we actually get to know something of who this man is, where we don't necessarily know that about Sam Spade. We know that his marriage is in crisis. We know that he had an elusive father. We know that he's searching for something that even he can't really enunciate or clarify. And the Los Angeles that we see is not at all dressed up. It's not at all glamorized. It's sort of an anti-Hollywood picture. But, Night Moves, in that respect, sort of differentiates itself from the noir films of the earlier decades because of its investigation, not only of the case, but of Harry Mosby.
And you can see Night Moves on Wednesday, November 19th as part of the new Hard Boiled series, starring Gene Hackman, who is, I think, a national treasure who we lost this year as an actor for sure.
Mm-hmm. Can you talk about the influence of this particular wave of noir on your later work, Matthew Penn? Because Law & Order, in my opinion, is a noir series, and I think definitely lends to its longevity. Like, people kind of want to see the day-to-day and how, dirty we get and how redemptive we can get.
And the night to night.
Yeah, well, I'm honored to have you mention it in light of these great films. But I think, you're so right, which is that as viewers, we are drawn into, first of all, a murder brings a certain kind of chaos to whatever the reality is. So a dead body immediately takes you into, aha, there's a crisis. In the same way that so-and-so walked into Sam Spade's office and says, I have a problem. My niece disappeared, or we found a body in, etc. The Law and Order connection to sort of the neo-noir world was really that, which is that the dead body in the first minute, we know it's coming. We know we're seeing two maids or whoever walk down a hotel hallway. They're about to open the door to the room. We know that there's something on the other side of that door that's going to turn this world upside down. And as viewers, I think that is endlessly intriguing because we're peeling back the onion layers of the human soul. Who did this? Why? How could they have done it? Who's the dead person? Did they deserve it? Did they not deserve it?
That is director and Triplex board member Matthew Penn talking about The New Hard Boiled, which is a series underway at the Triplex right now. And we're also speaking with Ben Elliott, the creative director of the Triplex.
I feel like there are three kind of distinct eras of noir in film. Like there's the early stuff, the very Dashiell Hammett informed things of the 30s and 40s. There is this era, which I consider second generation, and then there's been like kind of a slow-moving third wave with movies like Memento and Brick. Talk about how this particular era of noir differentiates itself from the noir that we're seeing now.
Ben Elliott from the Triplex.
It's so funny because I think all three waves that you kind of identified there, and I agree with you, and kind of especially the one we're currently living in is kind of slow and a little more amorphous than the previous two. But I do think it kind of comes from different waves and like confidence in American government, American society in general. Like I think that the golden age, like the Raymond Chandler kind of era, the John Huston era, there came out of we always think of World War II kind of solidified in amber as like the right thing to do, but it was still a very tumultuous time for the country, and especially afterwards there was just a grappling of kind of what the future looked like. And I think a lot of the really classic noir came out of that stretch of time. But then as you got into that real post-war glow of like the Eisenhower era, it didn't quite fit the national mood anymore, and you kind of saw the genre fade. But then we get to the Nixon era, and it's like, oh no, like let's bring it back. Let's take a look. And so I think Memento was probably a little ahead of the curve there, and there was some good, like I think there's some great titles in the 90s as well. But like that post 2000, I think there has been this kind of creeping questioning of the American identity that has led these kind of stories to kind of come back. I think the way something like Brick, which is one of my all-time favorites, was clearly just matching the Dashiell Hammett dialogue onto a modern life. But it's looking at things like, I don't know, like even like No Country for Old Men, right? Like kind of like something like a kind of like a Western noir, like kind of mixing of the genres that I think people have like played around with it in a little bit of a way that kind of makes it a little harder to identify in this current era. That being said, in the future, I would love to do a current neo-noir series.
A neo-noir.
A neo-noir, yes.
Third wave noir.
I like that.
Yeah.
We've talked about the last film in the series, Night Moves, which was directed by the father of our guest, Arthur Penn, who we're joined by his son, Matthew Penn. But Ben, let's run down the other movies in this series. This Saturday, we've got an opportunity to see one.
Yep. Point Blank, John Borman's film with Lee Marvin. It's, I think, actually just being remade again by Shane Black. I wanted to start the series with Point Blank because it has been such an influential film. It was remade in 1998, I believe, as Payback with Mel Gibson. It's such a straightforward, it's like criminal does a robbery, gets left for dead, but he's not dead, so he wants his money back. And like that is the driving force of it. But it's Lee Marvin, just one of like the great presences of this era of film, and getting to star in a full anti-hero role, right, where he is not apologetic at all in this movie, and it just takes full advantage of everything that Lee Marvin was, which was so amazing. But then it also kind of like, one of the other things that I think, it's the earliest film in the series, but it kind of has this, it's him going after this kind of nebulous criminal syndicate that's never really totally defined. It's just like a lot of people that he has to kill, basically. Spoilers, but like and I think that sense of just like there's an underlying conspiracy here that needs to be unraveled is kind of one of the threads that picks up throughout this series. But this was before Nixon was actually in office, but it did kind of like match the creeping mindset of just that there are people out of sight pulling the strings, that sense of paranoia that I think was starting to seep into American culture. You kind of get in a sense here. But then, of course, Lee Marvin, he just wants his money.
Can't blame him. He worked hard for the money.
Yeah.
And then next week, on the 29th and on Saturday, November 1st, we got number 2 in this series, which is
Clute. I love all these movies very much, but this one might be my favorite. Anchored by 2 amazing performances from Jane Fonda and Donald Sutherland. I'm excited to be completing Bakula's Paranoia trilogy. We had Parallax View and All the President's Men last year, and so now we get the third one in this year.
Nice.
So we've got the hat trick. A lot of these are detectives, dogly solving a case. This one, I don't know, the pace like just kind of like unfolds in a different way that I love, where it's a detective who's on a case that he thinks he understands, but he doesn't really, which is pretty normal, but just getting so involved in this world and his the use of the wiretapping and just the way that people are watching each other in this movie, and that sense of being monitored, which I think is another kind of theme that we see in this wave of noir, is so beautiful and so creepy. But it's also like there's a really like fantastic like relationship story at the core of this movie too. I just love watching these two.
Then that first week of November and the first weekend, full weekend of November, this is my favorite, I think, of the whole series in Hard Boiled. And we're talking about the Hard Boiled series of neo-noir at the Triplex in Great Barrington with Ben Elliott.
Is The Long Goodbye, Robert Altman's updating of Raymond Chandler's Philip Marlowe character, bringing him into the 70s with Elliot Gould as Marlowe.
And Elliot Gould is just phenomenal in this movie.
He's so good. I mean, it's everything you expect from Altman, right? It's got this incredibly loose human vibe to it while still existing in this world of conspiracies and murder and all of this stuff. Elliot Gould is so funny. If you are a cat lover and you have never seen The Long Goodbye, you absolutely have to. It's one of the best cat movies I think that's ever been made.
Yep.
Also starring a now former, but a Berkshire resident, Jim Bouton, I think possibly his only film role, but a very central role, who I was lucky enough to know a little bit growing up here in Great Barrington. The humor is a big part of like noir. I think that reaction to that kind of cynical, when you feel like the world has done you dirty, so all you can do is kind of make a wisecrack about it. Like that's a really like core part of this genre, and I think this one probably does the best because Elliot Gould is just hilarious while still being a very believable detective who gets his butt handed to him a lot.
But I feel like that's one of the threads that generally carries a lot of noir. Like there's someone who believes themselves to be pretty competent and then finds themselves just kind of drowning in a area that they believe themselves to have more clout or more capability in.
Yeah, I think a good way to measure the effectiveness of war is how bad does the protagonist look by the end of it.
Yeah.
How beat up both physically and emotionally do they look by the end of the movie.
I love that.
Which is a great segue into the next movie in this series.
A film that really takes that to heart. That would be Chinatown, Roman Polanski's Chinatown, which you're going to watch your protagonists get literally cut up and it does not go away in the next scene. Like that's, I think that feeling of these movies where it's just like they try to disabuse the idea of kind of movie magic where, someone takes a punch and then looks beautiful in the next frame. It's like, no, you take a punch and then you got a black eye for the rest of the movie.
Yep.
And that's the classic with Jack Nicholson, of course.
Yes.
And that'll be in the middle of November, which brings us back to where we began with Night Moves, directed by Arthur Penn. And we're joined by board member Matthew Penn, who is the son of Arthur Penn. Do you have any recollection of this movie being made as maybe a budding young director yourself, who, as we mentioned, you're Emmy nominated, did so many of the great television dramas in the kind of noir style, Matthew?
I do. I remember that we went down to the Florida Keys at Thanksgiving, and being on one of Dad's sets was always a exciting moment for me. I didn't know that I was aspiring to be a director or was interested in directing, but it always seemed a bit magical to be around the camera and what was happening. I remember that at one point it was, we were just down there for a handful of days because it was Thanksgiving. And, we had one of those odd Thanksgiving dinners with a few members of the cast and Tippi Hedren, it was such an odd moment. None of us knew each other. I didn't really even know who Tippi Hedren was or why we were all sitting there. But it was one of those peculiar childhood memories that one has from, sort of way back when. But I always loved going to see Dad's work. And they were shooting, it was a night scene where she asks him, where were you when Kennedy got shot? And he says, which one? You know,
Yeah.
Night shoots are tremendously arduous and take virtually all of the night because lighting them is such an extraordinarily high effort endeavor. But it was really fun for me to just be around and to be watching, even though the Thanksgiving dinner was pretty strange. So that's what I remember. Most of a lot of the picture, as you know, was shot in Los Angeles, and I was not really around. It was September, October, November. So my sister and I were back to school, as kids would be.
Just to talk about night moves a little bit, I mean, I'm so excited. It's the 50th anniversary of it this year. We're also kind of doing a year-long celebration of films from 1975. So this is kind of doing double duty. One of the things I love about this film, kind of talking about the way that a lot of the other films in the series have the sense that someone's pulling the strings from the back behind, is that just like everyone in this movie is just kind of like a grifter, just trying to like find their own like thing, and it's such a delight. I don't know, it's like it's its own variation within the genre, but like it also touches on a real like truth of just when people feel desperate and they are just trying to like find their way out of that desperation. There's so many different ways that just get tangled and messy, and it has one of the best endings, I think, of really any movie.
Yeah. Dad, he had made 3 movies before this, Bonnie and Clyde, Alice's Restaurant, and Little Big Man, that were really dealt with the American Depression, the anti-war movement, and the genocide of the Native Americans. And he took some time off before making Night Moves, trying to figure out sort of what he wanted to do. Was there a political element that he wanted to somehow address? And of course, it was in '68 that you had the horrendous assassinations of Robert F. Kennedy and Martin Luther King. And those were the first 2 moments I ever saw my parents cry. And I knew that it had made a tremendous impact on Dad. And then a number of years later, Watergate started to unfold, which looks now like Little League. But Watergate started to unfold, and he really started to think about how you talk about a country that's literally at sea. Ben references the ending, where we were sort of lost a bit. And how do you dramatize that? And it was just interesting that he took this sort of film noir script that had come to him and thought, I'm going to build a story out of sort of lost characters, in a way, characters that are literally not sure where they're going. And as anyone who's familiar with the film knows, the last image encapsulates that perfectly. I don't want to give
no
away.
Spoilers. You've had a while to be able to see it, but
it was a departure from the socially aware film that he had preceded over the last 4 or 5 years leading up to Night Moves, and really became something where it was connected to that time. He had advised John F. Kennedy during the debates with Nixon. And so he had been connected to the Kennedy family, not closely, but just generally. And I think that obviously when John F. Kennedy was killed, he reached out to Robert Kennedy. And so the assassination there was not just the assassination of a leader in the abstract. It was really somebody that Dad felt a particular kinship with and had been a tremendous supporter, obviously, of Martin Luther King. And so those 2 assassinations, followed by Watergate, really kind of spun all of us, but him too, into a kind of uncertainty of what's next. I can't imagine if he were alive today what he would be thinking.
Well, sometimes
if it gives birth to a new genre, it will be the neo noir.
Yeah. Fourth wave noir, perhaps. And the genre is the new hard-boiled that will be celebrated at the Triplex Cinema in Great Barrington this Saturday all the way through the end of November. And we have been joined by the creative director of the Triplex Cinema, Ben Elliott, and board member, director, Emmy-nominated director himself, and the son of Arthur Penn, Matthew Penn. Thanks so much for talking movies with us.
It was a
Thank
pleasure.
you both.
Also, shout out to the fact that you are also including Rocky Horror as part of your 1975 movies.
I was there the other night. It was great.
I'm assuming you're not letting people throw toast.
No, we'll have toast.
Oh,
we are.
will you?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. No, I got permission from our operations team that they'll help. I have to help clean up.
It's required.
That's fair. You do have to help clean up. And it is super
Yes.
fun when people have like the toilet paper and the water guns and the toast.
The
And
water guns, I will say, the water guns are the one part that we're not including in
Fair
the
enough.
kit, just because we do love our theater.
Yeah.
I was referring to the documentary about bar.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Which was superb. And so
Yeah, we had a fantastic documentary, but we'll be doing the full screening. Yeah, shout out to our friends at No Comply Foods here in Great Barrington who are compiling those kits. They are huge Rocky Horror heads and just wanted to make this the full experience. Costume contest beforehand.
Because there's a bunch of things that you throw at the screen during Rocky Horror in case you didn't know, but we'll learn more about that next week, I think.
Yes, we will. As always, you can find out more about programming and showings at the Triplex by going to triplex.org, including another showing for the Queer Cinema Club tonight, which we didn't get a chance to talk about, but they'll be showing Beautiful Thing tonight at 8.
Now to find out how we pronounce this incredibly tasty sounding dish that crosses borders and delights taste buds as we talk with Ito Moore of Secret Planet about Dogo do Togo and his pop-up at the Iron Horse on Saturday night.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by Real Pickles, a worker-owned cooperative in Greenfield producing organic fermented vegetables sourced from Northeast farms. More information at realpickles.com. The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by Eastworks, a 500,000 square feet dedicated to artists, entrepreneurs, and nonprofits where community happens. Learn more at eastworks.com.
Welcome back to the Fabulous 413. Secret Planet is the globally minded music CSA bringing international touring groups to many venues throughout the 4 counties.
And this weekend sees the organization bring Dogo de Togo, who we're hearing right now, to the Iron Horse this Saturday, October 24th. An Afro psych outfit straddling DC and Lome Togo and helmed by guitarist Masama Dogo, they've created the genre, how do you say this, Ito Moore?
Oh. Alaga?
Yeah,
Alaga beat. I'm glad we're all going to learn together.
I mean, I don't know how to pronounce 80% of the things I book.
That makes me feel so good, because now get ready for what Khalees is about to try to attempt to say.
So Dogo de Togo combines iconic rhythms of the Yue, Mina, Ga, and Kabye people, such as Kamo, Kaplan Logo, Kinka, Bobobo, Alaga. Yeah, blossoms from a complex interplay between the drum kit and rhythm guitar with a distinctive double snare hit and guitar part based on the traditional gankogui bell pattern.
You're so brave to have done that one, and I am so grateful that you made that your part of the
yes,
script.
I'm like,
Khalees.
I'll do this.
But awesome West African dance tunes are not all that will happen at this particular concert, because it will feature Ito Moore himself teaming up with Chef O'Brien Tomalin, who you may know from Sierra Grill and formerly Building 8 Brewing and formerly of Amherst Brewing Company and so many more, for how do we say it? The pop-up.
It's called Sabich.
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 Sabich. With the guttural.
It's like Hanukkah.
Hanukkah.
Yeah.
Hanukkah. Yeah.
Hanukkah.
Yeah.
An aspirated HKH thing, yes.
Yeah. And
it's hard.
it is hard, and it's fun to learn, and it's fun to make mistakes, and you should be open to correction because we're all trying to learn together.
Yeah, we learn better, we do better.
What do you want to talk about first, the food or the
music? No, we got to
music?
talk about the food first.
Okay, because you did bring us Ito Moore, who joins us from Secret Planet, these cookies.
I brought you some cookies.
Tell us about the cookies.
I like tahini in almost everything, including cookies. So these are tahini shortbread cookies with a little fennel.
They are
for
delicious.
a little digestive.
Yeah.
They're the perfect mix of sweet and savory, as we were talking about with Catherine Newman on the show, the author from Amherst, a couple of days ago.
Yep.
I love this.
Yep. No, it's a great combination, and they're light, and that you get a little bit of the fennel and the nuttiness from the sesame. It's all awesome.
I grew up loving shortbread cookies generally. It's just tons of butter.
Yep.
Well, as I talk with my mouth filled, Moore, your upbringing is a big part of what this event is going to entail, right?
Yeah, I mean, I always look for ways to cook this food publicly because you can't get it in the U.S. And, I have a pet theory that part of the reason it's undiscovered in this country is because the name is so hard to pronounce.
Sabich.
Sabich.
Yeah.
I'm getting it.
You're getting it.
I'm learning.
Yeah, that's awesome. See, we need to fix this because if you say Sabich, it just sounds terrible.
There's a way I can say it even more terrible that I think I did one time.
You did,
It
but
was pretty bad. Yeah, I was early on the show.
I like saying it like kabish, which is my tradition. but it's not that either.
No, sabich.
Sabich.
Sabich. And like other foods come to this country and they have perfect names, like pizza.
Yeah, but think about how hard it must have been. I always think about this. The 2Z thing in English, it should be pizza.
Pizza.
But
It
once
should be
you
pizza.
get it,
But
it's like,
once you
you're
get
right,
it, you
once
get
you
it.
get it.
But now you always see
yeah.
the 2Z's together and you say pizza. Nobody even thinks twice about it. So if Sabich became more popular, no one would say it incorrectly and wouldn't even think twice about it.
That's true.
Just like pizza, the double Z doesn't make any sense the way that we say it in English. I mean, pizza with
Do
a
you think
T
people
sound.
once long ago said pizza?
I would be willing to
Yeah.
bet every pizza I would have for the rest of my life on it.
I'm pretty sure that we did that. Like, we're so phonetic when romanization is such a weird thing when you take somebody else's language and bring it into English, especially when sounds like don't exist here.
Romanization, gabish?
Oh my gosh. Which is to say, like, taking a romanized or like the American or English alphabet and trying to write other words in it. It's just like, it's fascinating writing things in other languages that don't belong there.
Back to the question at hand. What is sabich?
So sabich, it goes in a pita, but it's not falafel. It's totally different. It's fried eggplant and eggs that have been boiled overnight, so they get very brown and very sweet, and they're kind of a lot more buttery than a normal hard-boiled egg.
Oh my word.
And then you put tahini in it and lots of vegetables like salad, all kinds of salad vegetables. Like an Arabic salad is cucumber, tomato, lemon, parsley. And then it's got like 2 or 3 sauces depending on who's making it. One of them is called amba, which is a mango pickle. So it's coming from India, right? And on the way, on the Silk Road, it ends up in Iraq. And then there's another sauce called schug. Can you say that?
Schug. Okay, I'm glad that, because I've seen this, it weirdly available at Trader Joe's sometimes.
Yeah, that one seems...
It's okay. It's an okay one.
We're breaking through.
But, I never know how to pronounce it properly because it's the romanization of that one is ZHUG or OUG.
ZHOUG.
Yeah.
I like to do SCHOUG because there's a schug, I think it's better.
It's better.
And what is in that?
So that is like a spicy cilantro pesto. It's got chilies. It's got like cardamom and coriander and garlic. It's crazy good.
Mm-hmm.
And so all that, the mango pickle, the schug, sometimes you put harissa, which is a North African
People are getting used to that one a little bit more. I might even almost say that one
Although
correctly.
if you don't make your own, they are not all equal.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, part of the problem, I think it's harissa, but you see it with just an H.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of, anyway, all the sauces go in, and this is just a thing that's just better than the sum of its parts,
Yeah.
And because it's in a pita, pitas have this interesting topography too, where it's not straightforward. Like it's not as homogeneous as a normal sandwich, where in one crevice there's a lot of something, in another crevice there's a lot of something else. So you're kind of having different flavor experiences as you eat the sandwich.
And the sandwich itself, not the experience of it all, is called sabich.
Exactly.
Right. It's not like a big formal meal is called a sabich. It's just this type of sandwich.
Which probably comes from, there's a long story about the name. It probably comes though from sabach, which is good morning or bright morning in Arabic.
Uh-huh. And tell us before we talk about the music and we run out of time, your connection to this food and how and why you're bringing it to the Iron Horse this Saturday, the 24th.
Yeah, I mean, my dad was born in Baghdad, a Jewish person in Baghdad. Before World War I, 40% of Baghdad was Jewish, which not a lot of people know, and left when he was a baby. In 1950, most Jews left for Israel because of pogroms that were happening, and he taught me a few really cool swear words, and he taught me about this food, and that's pretty much all I have.
I wish you could tell us them now, but we'll wait for another 6 or 7 minutes to
wait.
learn those words and how to pronounce them correctly.
Well, they won't sound offensive to you because they're, a different language.
It's certainly a gray area with the FCC.
And
I
honestly,
love dancing in that gray area.
Oh my God. One of the really cool things about this food, you sent us an article about your brother making them in San Francisco. How does your sabich differ from his?
Okay, well, I'm using pitas that Yalla makes up in Vermont. Incredible pitas.
I've been shamelessly plugging Captain Jack's all this week in East Hampton. The greatest hummus I've ever had in my life, Yalla hummus from Brattleboro, Vermont. Available at all the co-ops.
Yep.
They're the OGs in our area. But my brother, he has this Jewish bakery in San Francisco, and he installed a tandoor oven in the bakery, and he makes fresh lafas on the spot, which I can't do, but
That's fair.
maybe next year.
Yeah.
At the Iron Horse.
So you can experience all this at the Iron Horse this Saturday evening.
I mean, the beautiful thing about it too is that like this is the nature of immigrant food, of like cross-culture food, and like all of these different pieces coming together to make something beautiful and delicious.
All of these different pizzas coming together to make something beautiful and delicious.
No.
Tell us about the band Ito Moore from Secret Planet, because we know you mostly as bringing incredible music from all over the globe to our backyard, and now you're bringing incredible music and food to our backyard.
Well, Dogo do Togo is an Afrobeat psych rock band, so they're picking up on the Afrobeat vibes. This is Togo's between Ghana and Benin, so it's just like a hotbed of amazing music coming from all kinds of tribes and cultures in Western Africa. It's got electric guitars. It's got like some vodun.
Vodun.
Not to be confused with voodoo. There are like, again, language disperses and changes, but there's some of that spiritualism in the music, and it's super fun to dance to. It's trance-based, it's beat-based, and the band is making the circuit in our little Secret Planet syndicate, my friends in D.C. I just heard there's a new Secret Planet starting in Cape Cod, actually. They're playing there.
And are you part of all of this?
Well, we're like a group of friends and promoters, and we're all teaming up to help bands like this move
But
around
you
the
all call
Northeast.
yourself Secret Planet?
Yep,
Yeah,
we all
that's the
call
network.
Yeah, that's right.
It's so cool.
I do love it. I have an analogy for it that I also don't want to say on the air, but I can't wait to tell you until 3 minutes from now.
Well, you know what? We'll give you a second to do it while we have our engineer Phil play a little bit of Dogo do Togo for people to hear a little bit more of what they sound like.
Here they coming again. This time I won't let them take over my place. Ajelo, here they coming again. This time I won't let them take over my place.
The super cool thing about this is reading articles about Mr. Dogo, the band leader for Dogo de Togo, and how he's separating his sound, this alaga sound, from high life, and you can hear it in the beat, and you can hear it in the way that he creates some of those guitar lines. It's super cool.
I love the idea that Secret Planet is expanding out, but you are were you the first Secret Planet person bringing the music from outside back to closer to home here?
Okay, so the story of Secret Planet, as far as that name is concerned, is my colleagues in New York City have had a showcase called Secret Planet for about 10 years in January, and they book the most awesome artists for one night of the year. And I love the name, and this is the Olivier Conan from Barbez, who I put on Barbez in the Woods with.
Yes.
I reached out to him, and I was like, why don't we create this regional musical syndicate and like a little network, an underground network for artists, and call it Secret Planet. And if we all call it Secret Planet, then people who move here from like DC or from New York will be like, oh, there's a Secret Planet here too.
I love it. I love it.
In the minute we have left, have there been troubles getting these artists here now? Any greater increase in troubles in getting people from other countries into this country with visas, etc.?
Yeah, I've been doing this for like 7 years, and it consistently gets harder and harder and more difficult, and the visas get more expensive. The time to process applications gets longer. You used to maybe only have to do like an expedited filing once in a while, and now you basically have to no matter what, and that costs more, obviously. So yeah, we hear nothing but stories like this. There was a Tuareg North African rock group that had their tour canceled like a few weeks ago that some of my friends booked. So it's happening.
Yeah. And we've seen that like for the past year-ish, like just like tours get canceled, tours get postponed, even people coming just from Canada.
Yeah. It hasn't ever been that easy, but I'm sure it's not getting any easier.
All the more reason to go out and celebrate and enjoy these things when they come to town, because like who knows the next time you'll be able to enjoy this.
Like Saturday night, October 24th at the Iron Horse, where you can see Dogo
25th.
de Togo.
25th.
Where you can see Dogo de Togo and experience Sabich. Pretty good.
Sabich. Perfect.
Ito Moore from Secret Planet, who's helping to bring so much of this great music to us here. Thanks so much for coming in. And thanks for the cookies.
Oh, you're welcome.
Oh, our pleasure. And see all of the things that they're bringing, because there's definitely more concerts on the way at secretplanet.live.
On the next Fabulous 413, we'll hear about a compelling residency at APE Gallery from an experimental multidisciplinary performance company as we speak with Cesar Alvarez and Emily Orling.
And we'll sip wine-influenced whiskeys to get ready for a tasting event at Provisions and get ready for their move to Thorns.
And Live Music Friday brings the dance pop sounds of rival galaxies to the studio before you can catch them at Hughie's at the Nook in Westfield. I'm Monty Belmonte.
I'm Khalees Smith. We'll talk to you tomorrow on the Fabulous 413.
Et en plus, il m'appelle Yovovi.